This is lesson 2, government regulation of business. As we look at this lesson here, governments, both federal and state, can regulate business. And we look at Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution. The important part up here is it says Congress shall have the power, and down here, to regulate commerce with the foreign nations, among the several states, and with the Indian tribes. And this is where they get the power to do this. In addition to the power of the Congress to do that, states also have the authority to regulate. But one of the things with state regulation that has to be concerned is it cannot violate the Commerce Clause of the U.S. Constitution. So state regulation cannot have an unreasonable burden on interstate commerce. The whole idea behind regulation by the government is to expedite fair trade, and several of the things that occurs to make sure that we do that is regulation of advertising, labeling of goods, and establishing standards for products. Because of the regulation of prices, as an example of governmental trade, prices of goods can be regulated. The government can require that a certain price be fixed on an item. But to prevent price fixing by competitors in any industry, in other words, by letting an industry, let's say the widget industry, and we have Acme widgets and Beta widgets and we have Delta widgets, they three get together and say, listen, we're going to agree to charge this amount so we can keep our profits up. This is a violation of the Sherman Antitrust Act. And the Sherman Antitrust Act deals with issues with price fixing, by private industry, but it does not prohibit price adjustments based upon volume, quantity, or grade. That doesn't violate price discrimination laws. So, for example, I have a customer who buys one widget a year. I charge him a price. I have a customer that buys 1,000 widgets a year. I charge that customer a lower price. That's not a violation. The Sherman Antitrust Act also deals with improper competitive behavior. and its behavior that could monopolize the industry. As I mentioned, one would be three organizations getting together to set a minimum price, but also this could involve activities that would deter, discourage, or depress competitors. And the idea here is that a large company could drive prices down and actually lose money on a product for an extended period of time to put a smaller competitor out of business. And in doing so, when that smaller competitor goes out of business, then they can raise their prices and gain a somewhat of a monopoly on that item. This is violative of the Sherman Antitrust Act. Another problem with or involving government regulation of business is the Clayton Act, which governs the setting of businesses buying other businesses, and the idea is that if we have the purchase of business assets that may create a monopoly, then that violates the law. So certain companies have to get permission from the Federal Trade Commission. They have to notify them of their intent to merge, and if the government doesn't approve of that, they can block that.